Hi there. This video is to show you how to finish up your sketchbook. So you can see that although my cover is not completed, I can go ahead and show you the next steps. Once you've got everything embossed and you've got a lot of pattern and texture, which would be kind of like what I have here, this would not have enough pattern or texture because it's empty. You have the option to add some color to your project using Sharpie. Now this is completely optional. Obviously it's going to depend on what supplies you have at home, but it would need to be any kind of permanent marker because a water-based marker would just wash off. So if you wanted to go in and emphasize any of that, if you have colored markers, you could go ahead and color in. The markers are always going to appear a little bit lighter on the metal than they do in real life, like on the caps. So you could always test a little bit at the edges to kind of see your colors. This guy's kind of dying, but you get the idea. So that's completely optional. When all of that's done and you're sure you've got a good cover, we need to go ahead and attach it to the actual sketchbook. So the first thing that you need to do is undo the rings on your sketchbook. And so what you want to do is pull them apart like this and then open them. So you're going to need to take the front cover completely off. It's actually helpful. Again, I'll show you up close. Pull it apart, pry it open. If you actually leave the ring on the rest of your stuff, just so that you have an easier time pulling it off. I'm actually going to put this guy back in and set it to the side. Now that I've got my cover off, what I need to do is flip my repoussé to the back, and I'm going to line this guy up here, and I'm going to trace the edges. I had already done that with the embossing tool, and now I need to cut off all four corners at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to go into the corner and I'm going to cut it so that it goes right to that edge, but it's at a 45-degree angle. And this is going to help us when we wrap it around our sketchbook. In the past, when I've done this, I've always used hot glue because it gives you that nice, very quick, but I'm just going to use Elmer's glue because that's likely what you guys have at home. If you want to use a hot glue gun, feel free. Just make sure you don't burn yourself. Remember that metal is a conductor. And so I'm just going to put a little glue on here. It's just going to help kind of keep this from sliding out. I'm going to press and hold that in place for about 10 seconds. Honestly, if you're doing this at home, I would probably stop here, give it about 15 or 20 minutes to dry, so that it'll actually have time to dry and grip that. The next step is to fold these metal edges around the cardboard. So what you're going to do is put a little bit of glue. You're going to take the whole thing and you're going to bend it around that edge so that you get a nice crease. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to apply my glue. Okay, and I'm just going to fold it over the table. Obviously, if you put too much glue on there, you can see how it's wrapping around. And you see how, now that we cut those corners, they line up really perfectly over there. Whereas if we hadn't cut the corners, it actually, and I missed with my glue there a little bit, it's all right. And I'm gonna fold it over. And I got a little bit of glue on the front, but that will wash right off with a damp cloth. The next step is to take a pen, and you've got to repress those holes in there. So I can kind of, mine got folded underneath. So sometimes what I just do is I like to kind of visualize where it's at and re-poke the hole in there. So by unfolding it just a smidgen so that I can line up visually where that hole is, I can kind of line it up on both sides and then press it through. You can see both times I didn't find it right away. So I'm just poking that hole through so that way I can go ahead and apply it right to my sketchbook and go ahead and put the cover back on. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to line it up. Put the ring back through, close it back up. Honestly, you could attach it before you do the color if you decide to do color. Even if you decide not to do color. It's a little bit of a steering contest here. It's a little bit easier in the classroom. Like I didn't poke the hole through in the right spot. There we go. So you can see that took me a little bit of work there to get it in the right spot. But you could have always poked better holes in there with something a little bit longer. And now you have a ready-to-use sketchbook that hinges and it's nice and you've got this beautiful cover. Thanks so much.